Heyo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. And last night we took a look at Backlash, or should we say Backtrash, or if you want to call it Backwash. No matter what, it left a pretty weird taste in my mouth at the end of the day. It was a very boring, very unnecessary, very forced pay-per-view that was thrust upon us by the WWE this weekend, but it did contain a match that everybody's going to be talking about, and the nagging question that is burning at your soul: did the Viper Randy Orton and the Rated R Superstar Edge have the greatest wrestling match ever? No. And we are going to talk about it all right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare, and you are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's Backtrash Review and Reaction Show. Let's do it.
The Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
This was the worstest show. Oh, it was real bad, yeah, until we got to the main event. And you know what? That little ditty that I just sang to you, that was better than the entirety of the song that they chose for the theme song to this ridiculous pay-per-view with the ridiculous tagline that put Randy Orton and Edge in an impossible situation that they couldn't possibly deliver on. But I will give them a tremendous amount of credit. The main event of this show is the only reason to watch this show. These two guys went out there for 45 minutes and tore the house down. They stole the show. It was fantastic. But you cannot come at me with a match that features a bunch of signature maneuvers and finishing maneuvers that belong to other wrestlers and a bunch of kickouts and the return of a punt kick and call it the greatest wrestling match of all time. Was it on par even with what Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles did this past Friday on SmackDown? I guess they could have hung with them. It could have been on the same card. It should have been on the same card, but they had to call it the greatest wrestling match ever. So, of course, we're not going to have anything that nearly comes close to it. I really believe, at the end of the day, that the WWE booked the majority of the rest of the show, other than the main event, to be terrible on purpose. Can you feel Vince McMahon doing that? We need to make them feel like it's the greatest match they've ever seen. How do we do that, Dunn? Oh, well, Mr. McMahon, sir, we'll just show them Monday Night Raw. We'll give them a Monday Night Raw for 2 hours, and then we'll have a third hour with the greatest wrestling match ever, sir. Because that's what we got. Everything outside of the main event just felt like a typical episode of WWE programming. Doesn't matter whether you color it red or you color it blue. It all feels the same. And it would normally sound the same. For the most part, the majority of the show sounded the same. But they wanted to add these special audio enhancements. Enhanced audio, which is a fancy way of saying we're going to give you canned audience reaction, which was awkward at best. Very awkward at best. You can't look at a crowd of 15, maybe 20 people tops that you're seeing with your eyes and hear the reaction of an arena full of at least 10,000 people. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work, especially when the reactions that you're giving us to hear are not syncing up with the NXT talent that's been standing around all day, cheering and whatever. You're seeing them not be in sync with the piped in crowd for the most part. It made me feel like I was watching the Golden Girls. But at least like when you're watching the Golden Girls and you hear the laughter of the audience that you know is not there, you're not made to see that audience. The camera is fixed on the stage, on the set, so you don't see that there is actually no crowd. You just take it for granted and you assume the crowd is there, but you can't get around that here. Did it add to my enjoyment? Did it add to the atmosphere? Maybe it added to the atmosphere of the match, because as you're watching it, if you're not looking beyond the wrestling match, your brain kind of triggers something. So to make you feel like, oh, well, this don't feel so bad. But then you remember that there's nobody there, and it's like, wow, they're really good at manipulating audio, and actually more than enhancing this match, all it really did was show how good the WWE is at fooling you when you're watching an episode of their television show. They manipulated it, and it just made it seem as forced as everything else. But that is the most minor complaint I have about what ended up being a great match. It's not the greatest wrestling match ever. It was greater than I expected it to be. And I have to give credit where credit is due to Edge. Randy Orton, we all know what he can bring to the table when he wants to, when he's excited about something, and that's the Randy Orton we got tonight. He went out there and he put his heart into this matchup. You could see it meant a lot to both of these guys. And for Edge to come back after all of these years and have a 45-minute wrestling match that did not disappoint, that was definitely the best match on the card tonight. Maybe the best match of WWE 2020 altogether thus far as pay-per-view is concerned. But being the greatest anything is subjective. You could think it was. I don't think it was. I don't think it comes close to a Flair Steamboat classic. I didn't appreciate all the name-dropping tonight by the announce team during this thing, who was overselling, "Oh, this is the greatest match ever. Doesn't it feel like Flair Steamboat?" No, it doesn't. That was a Ricky Steamboat dropkick. No, it wasn't. That was a Randy Orton dropkick, you nitwit. Stop trying so hard. If you didn't do all of this extra and you would have just given us this match, it would have been probably even better. But all of the nonsense they added to it made it feel like something that was worthy of Backlash. But then when you watch it, you're glad you did. The rest of the show, watching it, made you want to probably kill yourself, which I don't want any of you to do. Nobody should ever take their own life. But this show definitely makes it hard, does it not? When you have a bunch of matches, mostly title matches, on this card, and none of them really matter. There's no meaning to the Universal Championship handicap match. Nobody even cares about it. In fact, it was made even worse by the debut of The Miz and Morrison's ridiculous music video that just made me want to throw up in my mouth. It really did. I'm watching this and I'm like, these guys consider themselves top of the top. Now, I know everybody has their ego, consider themselves to be the best at whatever it is they do, but these guys think they're good actors. These guys think they're Hollywood. And then they come out there and give us this 1990s, very Tim and Eric-like music video talking about Braun Strowman and how he shouldn't be the Universal Champion, trying to sell their hey, ho, ho. Please, will you spare me? Just freaking spare me. I'm hopeful that this is the end of it. The best thing that could have come out of Braun Strowman retaining his championship in this handicap match is the fact that if the WWE is smart, it will be over. They didn't even... They had the sense and the frame of mind to tease Otis, giving them a heads up. Hey, you know what? If you beat Braun Strowman tonight, I might cash in with Mandy. We're going to cash in this money in the bank. Tucky. You know, they teased it, but it didn't happen. You knew Braun Strowman wasn't going to win that match, and if he did, you knew this was not the time they were going to have Otis cash in, if they do ever. It's just ridiculousness. Just as ridiculous as Drew McIntyre's championship match tonight with Bobby Lashley, which actually did deliver on all ends as far as action is concerned. They did what I hoped they would do. They kind of picked up right where they left off from when they wrestled a few years back in TNA. They have a natural chemistry with each other. I like how they kicked everything off with Bobby Lashley's sneak attack, locking in the full Nelson before the match even begun, giving him a decided advantage going in. But we all knew that Bobby Lashley wasn't going to win this match, and we all pretty much had an inkling of a reason of why, which was going to be that trashy little floozy Lana. The one female on the entire roster that I actually want to see less than Nia Jax is Lana. Her place in this story especially now that her husband is gone from the company, makes it feel even more awkward and unnecessary as it did when it happened. You just simply can't get behind it. Bobby Lashley is clearly better suited with a manager like MVP. It fits better. They've made light of the fact that Bobby Lashley has been a different Bobby Lashley with MVP as his manager, and maybe it's time for him to move away from Lana. And I'm glad that they're making these accusations or coming to these conclusions on their own and putting them into the show, because that's where we're hoping it's all going to go. And after tonight, you have to believe that that's going to be the way for Lana is going to end up seeing the door in the Lashley house, because she just cost him the biggest matchup he's had. He's waited 13 years for a WWE Championship matchup, and she blew it. She's the one that blew it, and not in the good way that we all like. No, she came out, stuck her nose in where it didn't belong, caused some sort of a distraction. I don't know what she said. I didn't care enough to rewind it and listen. Does it matter what Lana's saying, if she's accusing somebody of cheating or not? I don't care. I don't care. There was no place for this now. This finish sucks. This was your standard. My female wife is going to come out. There's going to be a bump that's going to be the husband's fault. And then the babyface champion is going to pick up the win, thus causing further tension between Lashley and Lana. Why is that the goal here? Shouldn't the goal be making Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre look like they deserve to be at the top of the card? They had a match that would make you believe so. But for the match to finish on a Lana love story, it just brings the whole quality of everything down. It really does. The faster they excommunicate Lana from this whole thing, the faster we will be able to get back on board the Bobby Lashley Express, because I like the direction in which they are taking him. I hate that he is still handcuffed with this BS relationship with Lana, and Lana should just find a way to get released and go with Rusev, unless they really got divorced. I don't know. I don't give a shit about gossip. But how could she stay with them? Right? Wouldn't you want to... I don't know. That's just me. Maybe I'm too loyal of a person, and maybe she's not. That remains to be seen. But that's neither here nor there. The bottom line is, she ruined, or the decision for her to be the reason for this match to end, just took everything away from that WWE Championship matchup. I thought McIntyre and Lashley were doing great. I actually thought they were going to end up giving the main event a run for its money. It didn't get that good, but it was on its way to being something. Could have been given a little bit more time, and less time should have been given to Lana and the whole way that match finished. Another championship matchup that I thought was a little bit weird was the United States title. The first thing about it being weird was the fact that it was placed on the pre-show. WWE does not value their mid-card titles, nor the wrestlers that hold them. Having a championship match on a pre-show is wrong in and of itself. There are a couple of other reasons why this was wrong. Mainly because not only did they ruin a good match, because Apollo Crews and Andrade actually had a good match for the United States title, but most of you don't know that because none of you are as dumb as I am and actually watch the pre-show when you get home from a hard day's work. You try to stay away from stuff like that, but when you do that, you miss the very rare gem, which was a very good match. So that's mistake number one. This should have been on the main card. There was room for it, believe me. Mistake number two is not just wasting the championship matchup. Yes, that was number two. And then number three is this was also the segment on the night that you decided to feature Kevin Owens. You had him come out on commentary. He was in his little pink salmon-y looking tie, and he killed it. He was great on the commentary. I thought he was insightful. I thought he was funny. Kevin Owens is great on the mic, much like Samoa Joe. He's got a natural charisma and flow to him, and it was good. It was good, but we all knew what was coming. He was only there to counterbalance having Angel Garza on the outside and Zelina Vega, and he played his part, and he stopped Angel Garza from interfering, which caused a momentary distraction to Andrade, which allowed Apollo Crews to capitalize and pick up the win and successfully defend the title. But the match leading up to all of the shenanigans in the end was really very good. And if this match actually opened Backlash, it would have given the show a better feel overall. Instead of giving us all that feeling of, oh, here we go again, title match on the pre-show, WWE doesn't give a shit, so why should I? And you should have. In fact, I would rather you guys go back and watch this pre-show match than any of the other follow-up matches to the main event of Backlash. I would even tell you guys to watch Lashley and McIntyre, and just, once you see Lana, just stop. Just stop and skip to the next segment, because it's not worth it. But I don't understand. I will never understand the WWE's mentality when it comes to bookings that way. I will never understand their mentality when booking a triple threat tag team matchup for the SmackDown Women's Tag Team. I do that all the time. For the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, which features the SmackDown Women's Champion Bayley and Sasha Banks, the title holders, in an unnecessary matchup. They built this matchup, in 2 weeks? And we have the Iconics in there just because they're the only actual tag team around besides Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. And outside of these 6 ladies, who is there? We're going to keep seeing this same round robin of tag teams going on and on and on. The only thing to really note for this match was it wasn't all that bad. It was probably a little longer than it should have been. I mean, it was barely even 10 minutes, but it just seemed a bit stretched. I feel like this was a planned spot fest. You know what? I know all of pro wrestling is predetermined, but it feels like it was a little overly spotty and a little bit predictable at times. You can kind of see that they were choreographed. You know, that it didn't feel natural. It felt like they were trying to hit their spots and then get on out of there. There was not a good chemistry in the match. But the match itself was set up okay. It wasn't a complete train wreck or anything like that. And all of the girls did just fine. A couple of minor botches, of course, when it comes to the Iconics. They are just not in the same shape as far as in-ring readiness as the other 4 women. Even Alexa Bliss seemed like she was a little bit more on her game tonight, pulling off some impressive stuff. But there were some moments, of course, and it's not just because it was the women's division, it's just because of the way they book these things, man. And it came off forced, as did most of this pay-per-view. After that, we had Sheamus and Jeff Hardy. And how many ways can you force me to watch bad television? Well, this is just one of the many ways. Sheamus and Jeff Hardy, over the course of the last couple of weeks since Jeff's return to the WWE, has been controversial. It's been questionable. Some people love it. Some people hate it. I actually come down right in the middle, and that might be a little bullshit of me to say, but it's true. I don't really care one way or the other. It's not making the angle any better, but it's certainly not making anything worse by bringing in the real-life drama. If the person in question, being Jeff Hardy, is okay with breaching the topic and doing this angle, then the rest of us should be okay. And if your problem has to do with him doing this angle, then get over it, because he's the one ultimately that should have a problem with it. If he's not sitting there going, I don't want to do this, man, then the rest of us should just shut up and enjoy, because the guy's trying to tell us some sort of a story here. But the story they decided to tell tonight was way too long. Here's one of the instances where you could have taken this match and cut this one directly in half. Sheamus should have defeated Jeff Hardy quickly and decisively tonight. Jeff Hardy's just coming back from a long layover himself. There's no reason for him to be going out there putting on 20-minute matches. Sheamus was the right choice here to win if you want to tell more of this story, because once Jeff Hardy gets his revenge, there's nothing more to tell. But also taking into account that just 48 hours ago on Friday night, he got a cup full of piss to the face. He should have came running out to the ring and obliterated Jeff Hardy in about 5 minutes. He should have been that mad. He was embarrassed in a disgusting way, forced to taste another man's urine. It would have called for him to be enraged like the Hulk and just totally demolish Jeff Hardy in 3 minutes, and you could have put the United States title match on the actual card. You don't need a match on the pre-show. Let Rosenberg and the other guy sit there and talk themselves to death to an hour. You don't need a match there. You had more than enough time here. You should have shaved 20 minutes for this match. Was too much, man. And you could tell because about halfway through, as talented as both of these men are, you could see it just started to get a little bit clumsy, a little bit disorganized. Jeff Hardy was not ready to be out there doing 20-minute matches. Edge was ready for his 45-minute matchup, but he's been preparing for it for weeks. I guess they probably just sprung this on Jeff. Oh, you guys got 20 minutes tonight, and I'm sure that he didn't think he was going that long. Maybe he did, and if he did, then shame on him for not staying ready so he didn't have to get ready, but that's definitely not what I think happened here. They were just booked into a corner. They were given too much time to tell this story. Very unnecessary length of this match, but Sheamus defeating Jeff Hardy is just fine. This is only the beginning of this story, you guys. They have nothing else. They have nothing else, and they feel like they have something here, so you know what they do. They're going to beat this dead horse right into the ground. And we're going to have to come along for the ride and see where it goes. Hopefully they start to step away a little bit from the whole he's a junkie thing and start to give Sheamus other things to say, and maybe it'll be interesting going forward. But at some point, Jeff Hardy has to get his revenge, does he not? Or otherwise, what's the point of the whole story in general? There was no redemption for Jeff Hardy tonight, but there was for Sheamus, as I'm sure he's very happy that he got one up on the Enigma after he got piss all over his face and down his throat. Ugh. Absolutely disgusting. And I'm sure Vince McMahon enjoyed every minute of it. Just like he probably enjoyed every minute of a supremely unnecessary Raw Women's Championship matchup. Asuka, the newly minted champion, thanks to Becky Lynch leaving to become a mother. Asuka has been forced into this feud with Nia Jax because Nia Jax has been hurting her friend for weeks, I guess. Maybe that's the backstory here. I don't know. What did Nia Jax truly do to earn this opportunity? I don't know. But none of that even matters. Because being that there was no winner tonight, WWE didn't have the balls to solidify Asuka as a dominant champion going forward. They didn't have the balls, thank God, to take the belt from Asuka and put it on Nia Jax for the second time in her career. I'm grateful they decided not to do that. But the writing is on the wall here, people, and we all know what's going to happen. As the queen of everything is going to come back to Monday Night Raw once again, now that she's free of making NXT look like a bunch of no-name jobbers, she's going to come and beat Asuka for the championship. And we're going to be back at square one in the Charlotte Flair era that seemingly will just never end. Now, who would you put in that situation? I would just leave Asuka. I would leave Asuka. Let her have some matches. Where the hell's Shayna Baszler? Do Asuka versus Baszler. Do Asuka versus Jax. You could do Asuka versus Flair, but let Asuka be the victor. Then we can have new and different matches later on. If you build up characters like a Liv Morgan, or you build up a Ruby Riott, or you build somebody from NXT and bring them up in time, like a Shotzi Blackheart or something like that. And give us interesting matches. Have Asuka show up on NXT instead of Charlotte Flair. Asuka versus Io Shirai. Who wouldn't want to see that match at NXT? Champion versus champion. Do it. That's the kind of stuff that will bring women's wrestling to the next level. Not more Charlotte Flair. Thankfully, we didn't have to see her tonight. But we did have to see this match, and it really wasn't good. And is that surprising to any of you? No. It's a Nia Jax match, and she's rough, she's stiff, She's clumsy. There was a portion of this matchup where she actually fell to the outside of the ring. I don't think that it was intentional. I think it was a mistake. It looked pretty awful. I don't know, maybe that was just me. Maybe I was dreaming it. But certainly don't think I'd be dreaming about Nia Jax wrestling in the ring. It's just not something that I enjoy on a weekly basis. And again, I'm not trying to, be disrespectful or anything, but when it comes to her in-ring performances, they're just not good. And they're just not on par with where she needs to be. She's got a lot of work to do. She was not ready to be placed in the position she was in when she was called up, and they still keep putting her right in these positions where the spotlight is directly on her, and then we're wrong for calling out where we see the mistakes, right? But you put her in this position to fail in the first place. But I'm the one that's wrong for calling you out. I don't think so. This was a hard match to watch. This was a hard match to get through. And the finish was terrible, as both of these women got counted out. No finality to the match. So expect Charlotte to be added to this in one way or another, probably as soon as tomorrow night. Then we had the 2-on-1 handicap match. Braun Strowman defeats The Miz and Morrison. Hopefully we never see anything more of that again. They followed that with Drew McIntyre defeating Bobby Lashley to retain the WWE Championship. And then they had the worst moment of the night, which definitely gets a big fat poop hammer. And that, of course, goes to anything involving the tag team division. And if they had no intention on having a tag team championship matchup, then they should have never announced it. I, like a fool, sat down tonight and thought that, well, okay, we've seen a decathlon, we've seen bowling, axe throwing, turkey legs, all kinds of stupid shit, right? So all of this was going to lead up and play out thanks to this tag team championship matchup. But they pulled the rug out from under me. And I don't allow them to do that to me very often. I can usually see through it. But I didn't expect tonight's planned tag team title match to turn into another one of these ridiculous tag team buddy bonding segments, made infinitely worse by the amount of garbage they threw into this dumpster fire to just make it a blazing hot mess. We've seen Akira Tozawa show up with a gang of bike ninjas. One of them was like 9 feet tall with a katana sword. But did anything cool happen? No. We have these two teams that are supposed to be battling it out for championship gold, dreaming about each other, daydreaming about each other, remembering all the fun times they had last week, eating turkey legs and playing basketball. And then they put them on the same side. Now they're friends. The Viking Prophets. The Street Raiders. The Viking Raider Warrior Street Prophet Raiders. My brain can't even process it. You want to talk unnecessary. Whoever wrote this, and this goes to the entirety of the storyline from 4 or 5 weeks ago and everything in between up until and including now. If you are the person responsible, I don't care if you're Bruce, I don't care if it was a Paul Heyman production, I don't care if it came from Vince McMahon himself, I don't care if it's one of you little cronies in that creative office that lost your job at Seinfeld 20 years ago and are still trying to prove that you got creative chops as far as comedy goes. You need to retire. And if you're young and you're just starting and you're getting into this business and this is the kind of crap you're writing for pay-per-view television, find another career. Maybe go the documentary route. Base yourself on facts because your imaginative capabilities are coming up with pure shit. Maybe do biographies and things of that nature. Because clearly fiction is not your forte. This was awful stuff, you guys. Awful stuff. And it even included a trash monster. Trash monster should have been the name of this pay-per-view. There was a trash monster. There was a couple of callback moments to Star Wars. We had one of the Viking Raiders using the Force to pull a turkey leg out of a turkey leg bush. I don't fucking know. I don't care. I don't care. If they don't care and they want to put this on, then why should I care? I felt like this went on forever. Forever and ever and ever. Holy cow. It was bad. One of the worst things, and I feel like I say this every time we see one of these tag team skits, but this was one of the worst things ever. And I hope and wish that they would stop. I really, really wish that they would stop. They even had to force their repetitive joke of, Ivar, you're kind of cute, but Eric not so much. They actually had Jessica Carr, NXT referee, WWE referee, there just to deliver this line. There was no match. It started as a street fight between the two teams that was in the back, and it divulged into them swimming together in a dumpster of garbage, and like the Star Wars arm monster thing comes out, or some kind of an octopus arm, or a fucking lizard tail, I don't know. I'm sorry. That's all I can say. I'm apologizing for them to you guys, because that was just... There's not enough poop hammers in the world to drop down on these segments. I miss the War Raiders. Remember those guys? Remember War Machine? Remember when they were War Machine before they even came to NXT? How they were blowing up the independents? Remember how cool the Street Profits were? With their red cups and their cool theme song, getting the crowd all hype. Now they're a bunch of bad punchlines, getting bowling balls to the nuts. Absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, the tag team match didn't happen tonight. Last night, whatever the case may be for you. And then we had the main event. Randy Orton defeats Edge in just about 45 minutes. This match was way too much to go over match for match. The one thing to just take with you is this was an excellent matchup. They really, really did a great job. Was it the greatest wrestling match ever? No. No match is the greatest wrestling match ever. There will always be somebody with an opposing opinion, which is what makes this all hyperbole. It's just stupid to even use that as a tagline for a match or a pay-per-view in and of itself. But they did great. They really, really did great. And like I said earlier, I think it's the best way to put it. They had a great match. It was greater, I think, than most of us expected, but it was not and cannot be the greatest wrestling match ever. And outside of that, there was nothing. It was just a gigantic dumpster fire that you didn't need to put your eyes on. So I did it for you. And thank you guys for joining me tonight for this Backlash review and reactions show. I hated the crowd noise. I hated that they used Howard Finkel as the announcer for that main event. I hated that there was no big fight feel tonight. None of the championship matches had any announcements in the traditional fashion. But that's because of what's going on. And hopefully that's starting to come to an end soon. Hopefully there'll be some sense of normality, at least from a fan perspective, because there's never a sense of normality when it comes to this program and the way they book these shows. And we could have definitely lived without Backlash. We could have had that Orton and Edge match anywhere. And literally every other match on this card did not need to exist, which makes Backlash one of the worst pay-per-views of the year, one of the worst backlashes they've ever booked, and whether they did it intentionally to help the main event or not, it didn't help us have a good time as fans. And the best part of this match, or this night, was that main event match. Could we put it in the discussion for greatest wrestling match ever? I don't know. That's maybe pushing it too. Up there with Michaels and Taker at WrestleMania? I don't know. That's another story for another day. But thank you guys once again for being a part of this show here with me and being a part of the family that we are growing here at Sledgehammer TV that's growing more and more by the day. We have been growing in astronomical numbers right now. I want to thank all of you new subscribers. Anybody sticking around right now to the 35-minute mark, you are my favorite kind of subscribers because you know the deal and you get me. You get entertained by me and you know that this is one of the best half an hours you are going to spend talking about wrestling all day. So don't forget to tell me what you thought about Backtrash, Backwash, Backlash in the comment section down below. While you're down there, make sure you are subscribed. And if you're not, you hit that subscribe button with your Sledgehammer at home so that you can become part of the coolest, newest faction of professional wrestling fans that there is in the whole entire internet wrestling community. Become a Sledgehead today. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure your notifications are on so that you don't miss anything because the channel is starting to expand. And we are about 50% done with a very special video where we're going to take a break from wrestling sometimes. And we're not going to be like those other channels. We're not going to start an all new channel and go beg you guys, oh, please go subscribe to my other channel. No. We're going to put everything. This is Sledgehammer TV. We are a TV network. We're a TV station. And when wrestling ain't doing it, we need to bring the heat somewhere else and bring down the hammer on some other things. So stay tuned to see what we got cooking and what's in store. It's going to be coming soon. More information on that in the days to come. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the team, Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, his tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue the Snowball, the most important member of the team, as always, each and every one of you. If you missed anything from the week, the go-home show reviews, they will be up in the annotations up above. Raw and SmackDown got hammered pretty hard this week in their lead-ins to this show, which definitely didn't live up to pay-per-view standards, despite a very, very good main event. That, my friends, is going to do it. We are out of here, and we will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com. Bang.